Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 grand, Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Yo, All-Star Weekend has come. It's gone. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really watch a lot of it. But there was something that I wanted to make sure that I tuned into. And that was the Rising Stars Challenge. I want to dive into that in this video because it's two players that I really want to take a second look at. Jaden Ivey and Benedict Mathurin. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. I definitely appreciate all the love and support, and definitely just following the Detroit Pistons this season has been just really fun, just with the, ups and downs, and starting off with a lot of downs and then some ups. And, it's really cool to kind of like stick with a team and follow them. But yeah, let me just start off with Jaden Ivey is a hell of a talent. And in the draft, there was a lot that went into the thinking of which one would be a better selection to potentially partner with Cade Cunningham as a long-term solution, right, in building a potential champion. You had the number one draft pick in Cade Cunningham, and then they had an opportunity to get a top 5 pick to partner with him in the following draft. Now this is, I'm not going to say it's rare, because many times teams that are bad enough to get a number one pick in the first place often are also bad the following season. And as a result, they get another high draft pick. So maximizing those 2 picks is essential if you're going to be able to rebuild a team. When you look at the Orlando Magic, you got Paolo Banchero, and then you have Franz Wagner. Or you got Franz Wagner, and then you had Paolo Banchero, right? You look at other teams, Victor Wembanyama, right? And now quickly behind, they're going to be another probably top 4, in the draft selection this year. And so making sure that you capitalize on those selections is key. Now, the number one pick is generally in the bag. It's usually in most drafts, not this coming draft, but in most drafts, the number one pick is clear. It is a talent that is so far beyond everyone else that it's obvious who that pick is. However, in the following draft, that is where it can be a little bit more dicey, because picking in that 3, 4, 5, 6 range, the difference between talent levels and skill and ability tends to be really unique, meaning the type of player, their style of play, and how they might fit next to what you already have on the team. So when the Detroit Pistons took a look at Jaden Ivey and Benedict Mathurin, there were some very specific dynamics that they had to consider. 1, who had the highest ceiling? 2, who had the highest floor? 3, who is the best fit alongside Cade Cunningham? And I want to dive into those a little bit, because when we saw the dynamic playing out, I think a lot of us saw that Jaden Ivey had the higher ceiling. And we began to look at his talent and say, you know what? Not only does he have a high-end potential ceiling, but he also has ties to the Detroit Pistons. He wants to be a Detroit Piston, right? He's shown the talent. He's shown the ability to raise the ceiling of a team. We see the type of talent that he has. It's reminiscent of a Russell Westbrook, right? And we began to see this and say, you know what? That could be special. And at the same time, people also looked at Benedict Mathurin and they said, yo, he's got high-end talent as well. I would have to say if Jaden Ivey's athleticism and physical makeup and tools put him at a 9, Benedict Mathurin is at a 7.8, 8.4, right? He's not too far behind. But this was the major difference, was that Benedict Mathurin, his game was far more refined. It was far more, I don't want to say developed. Well, I can say developed. But it was a role that he had fine-tuned to where you saw that you can plug him in and know exactly what you're going to get from him. You knew that it was going to be reliable. You knew that it was going to translate to the NBA game. And it has. He was, I think he was first team all rookie last season. He was I think he had one of the highest effective field goal percentages. He was able to get to the free throw line at a rate that we hadn't seen since like rookie D Wade. He was just doing some things that were really, really, really setting him apart. And considering that both of them were 6'4", 6'5" guards who could play off ball next to Cade, both had a lot of promise. I think also last season we saw Jaden Ivey, that ceiling that we were talking about. We saw this kid and we realized, he has so much talent. He's going to be able to do so many things just with his physical makeup alone. And I think one of the things that we have seen differentiate between the two of them has been just how well they can translate their games to winning. And this is my first major point, is that has slowly been a gap that Jaden Ivey is closing. Benedict Mathurin, from day one, could be plugged into a winning system. You could probably throw him into a playoff series and know what you're going to get from him. He can contribute to winning immediately. I don't think that was the case with Jaden Ivey. Last year, or even I would say much of this year. Why? Because one of the major aspects of winning at a high level is efficiency and your ability to control the game, the ball, to be consistent, to be reliable, and to be able to elevate your game in that consistency and reliability. Jaden Ivey hasn't been there. But what you're beginning to see is Jaden Ivey finally begin to figure out his game and say, this is what I'm about. And I think that this was what was exciting for a lot of Detroit Pistons fans, is because we saw Jaden Ivey and said, whoa, what can he be? When he puts it all together, what will it look like? And right now, when I'm looking at him play, I'm loving two things that I'm seeing. One, I'm seeing that Jaden Ivey is beginning to use his athleticism for defense and hustle, which is an incredible feat because he's so athletic. He can get to loose balls. He can get to passing lanes. He can get to closeouts, right? He can get out in transition in a way that other people can't. He can rotate, be a help side shot blocker from behind. He can slide over and try to take a charge, even though I haven't seen him do as much charges, but he's beginning to apply his athleticism in other areas. I credit that to the other players they've surrounded him with this year, with Asar Thompson, because seeing somebody even more athletic than you be able to earn significant playing time, fanfare, and a role because they're using their athleticism in these other ways outside of scoring, it begins to inspire and it begins to actually teach those around them that this is how you can also contribute to winning. And considering they've struggled so much with winning, there's no excuse not to. The other area that I'm beginning to see is that Jaden Ivey is beginning to learn how to attack. And I did a video of this earlier, that he's learning from Marcus Sasser. He's learning that you don't have to get all the way to the rim just because you can. Because sometimes, especially when you have drop defensive coverage, you have a big man on the defensive end who's sliding right underneath the basket. And if you consistently try to get all the way to the rim, you're going to find yourself running into extra defenders. But when you watch Marcus Sasser looks to attack what we call in the coaching realm the gaps. The gaps in between defender A to defender B. From defender A to defender C. That means your primary defender and the next help defender or the tertiary help defender. Finding the gap, that 50 to 60% between your man and them, to get as close as you can to the basket without running into the help defense, is the gap. And when you attack a gap, the beautiful part about it is when you are able to use your speed to get to the gap, you can get there into an opening, which creates a shot opportunity without worrying about a defense sliding over to help and challenge a shot. And what that's done is it allowed Jaden Ivey to cut down on his turnovers and to be able to gain more improved shot selection and efficiency that has allowed him to score at a higher rate consistently over the last maybe 10 to 15 games. And we began to see more and more outbreak games. And it couldn't have come at a more important time because Cade Cunningham had been out for an extended stretch. Then when I watched this Rising Stars game, I thought it was a beautiful thing because you began to see that there's a healthy rivalry brewing. And it couldn't happen in a more better situation considering that Jaden Ivey is in Detroit and Benedict Mathurin is in Indiana. Benedict Mathurin is a bucket. I wouldn't necessarily call Jaden Ivey a bucket yet. I'd say he can get buckets, but there's a difference. A bucket is a natural feel. A bucket is somebody who can do it in their sleep. A bucket is somebody who has already figured out the nuance to their game to get their shots. Jaden Ivey is still figuring out his game. But what you saw is that within who he knew that he was able to maximize that and compete with Mathurin. Even though they lost their game, you saw that he didn't back down when the trash talk started. You saw that he was able to elevate his game through increasing his energy in the peripheral areas outside of just scoring. And even though he had a couple of mishaps, he also had a bunch of good plays that allowed his team to stay in that game, to even maintain leads. And even though Benedict Mathurin ended up winning that battle, it's looking like it's about to shape up for one of those epic long-term rivalries. One of those 10 to 15 years, these guys are best friends and yet brutal rivals. They can't wait to see one another. And I love that they're in the same division, which means that we're going to get to see it often. We're going to get to see constantly these two going at each other. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. And I'm not here to say if Benedict Mathurin would have been a better choice for the Detroit Pistons. I will say this. Monty Williams wouldn't have thought twice about starting him from the beginning of the season, even though I already conceded that he should have started Ivy simply for the sake of development alongside Cade Cunningham and developing that chemistry. So when I look at this rivalry brewing, I'm excited about it. But as always, I want to know what you all think. Who do you think is going to have the better career, more accolades, more success when it's all said and done? We all know Mathurin, he's got Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam. We know that Jaden Ivey, he's got Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. Where do you think it all plays out? Who do you think has the better career? Get at me in the comment section, and I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.